Hi, welcome back. In our previous videos, we talked exclusively about the right hand, and that's really important to get started before we start to engage our left hand. So on today's lesson, we're going to start using our left hand fingers. Let's get started. So the most common ways to start using your left hand on the guitar is to, usually use an excerpt from a diatonic scale. So you'd use these consonant notes from a diatonic scale, like E, F, G, F, E on the first string, and then you would do E, B, C, D, C, B on the second string, and so on. And you can do that on all 6 strings. And we almost always start on the first string, and it seems to be the conventional thing. And so I do that too. And the other thing to do is maybe start with your first finger and just play a note and then release, and then do that on all 6 strings on the first fret, and like so on. So we're going to do like a little sort of variation on that. So we're going to start with your first finger on the first fret, press down, and just remember you keep a soft curl in your fingers like this. You're not like this, you're not like this. It's somewhere in between. Your hand has enough natural tension where you don't actually have to do much. You just have to let it be. And you should be able to have space between your palm of your hand and the bottom neck of the guitar, the bottom of the neck. So we're just going to do a repetitive exercise, and what we're going to do is we're going to play the first finger on the first fret and then release, the second finger on the second fret and release, and then the third fret and third finger, fourth fret, fourth finger. And so as you just notice, the fingers correspond to the frets for now in the first position. So we're going to play first fret, open, in a nice steady pulse. Now we're on the second fret with the second finger. Play the note, release, and you release about a ½ an inch off. You try to maintain this curl in your left hand, this soft curl. Now your pinky and your first finger might play a little bit on the outside of your fingers because of the the way your fingers are constructed. Your second and third finger might go more centered in the center of your fingertip. I'm doing groups of 4. A group being a note, a release, a note, release, and then first. So if you notice, your hand always is above the fretboard. It's not, if you're playing one's not going behind, you're not going too high. Your fingers should be over the string. And while there are exceptions to this, you should always think of your fingers being in a 4-fret span. And there are exceptions. There are times you'll reach up to a 5th fret. But enough on that. We'll talk about that later. And so you just do that on each string. Let's show a slightly different perspective on the second string, same exercise, and we're playing I and M rest strokes in the right hand. I'll just do 4 groups, or I should say 2 groups on each fret, 4 notes, 4 pitches. You go back the way you came. That sustained note. Let's go right to the 3rd string, and we're still using I and M. And when I go to the 3rd fret, you can move your hand the littlest bit. Your hand should never be stiff. It should be stable but loose. And if you see, look at that space between my hand and the bottom bottom of the neck of the guitar. Don't get fixated on reaching. Let your hand be nice and supple. You can even remind yourself sometimes of the shape just by putting your fingers down and lifting up, lifting up. You should have a soft curl, either a little straight or a little bit like this. One of the big no-nos in playing guitar is you're having your hand look like that. That's a no-no. There's a few things that are you just can't do. So I want to suggest a way to position your right hand when you play the bass strings. So I want you to put your ring finger, your A, on the first string, your middle finger on the second string, and your first finger on the third string like this. And that way, that sort of like reflects how you will play most of the time when you play a guitar, like or a chord. So it's a good sort of reinforcement of that. So we're going to play, we're going to start playing on the fourth string. When you do this exercise on the first 4 frets, your thumb is right there, right? And it's on, you can access the bass strings. So now we're going to start to do the exercise like this. So that's how you should position your right hand. An alternative is to put them on the first string, but I think this is more ideal and reflects how you'll play in the future. So let's see how this exercise looks on the bass strings. So again, palm up, sort of facing the ceiling, the bottom of the guitar, soft curl, sort of a straight wrist or a slight bend out. Slight bend out, never like this. That's a no-no. Here we go. You drop your hand down and just bring up a loose hand like this, and here we go on the fourth string. We'll just do 4 pitches on each fret. Even and steady. You'll do more than this. Now we're going to go right to the 5th string, and you'll notice you have more license to let your bottom of your palm, or your palm, to come to the bottom of the guitar, because it has to reach the strings. Also, this is a great reinforcement for your basic hand position, because your fingers have no bad place to go. When they're playing on the bass strings, there's no place else to go, so they have to be here. So they can't sneak underneath the guitar or get out of position. And if you notice, sometimes I'll just move my hand up just the littlest bit. And that's how you should be when you're playing the guitar. You shouldn't feel stiff. Your hand should feel really supple. Last note, my hand should look like that. And the bottom of my palm, the palm is almost hitting the bottom of the guitar. You don't want to feel like you're grabbing onto it, but it certainly can go higher. So when my hand starts here on the first string, it should look more or less the same as it does here. Do that again. Second, so I'll do it on the 2nd string. I'll move to the 5th. My hand more or less looks the same, and that's something you should keep in mind as you're playing your left hand. So this is you can call this a chromatic exercise, because you're not skipping any frets, and so you play, then release. You play, then release, and this is great because you can really examine your hands. You can just look at your hands, and it's primarily a left hand exercise, so you should always have a set of exercises where you are just looking at your hands. And so reading music is super important, and we'll talk about that, but this way you can really look at what your hands are doing, if your hands going like this or like this, and just really relaxed. And don't forget, check in with your right hand. Make sure that you're alternating I and N as you do these exercises. Good luck. And remember, please leave comments and questions and hit like below. And of course, subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Thanks.